I thought I'd do a video clip looking at kind of a top 10 of behavioral interventions. In Judith's book and also in Podesky's workbook, there's an awful lot of behavioral interventions that they talk about, and in some ways the list is quite overwhelming. And so I think it's kind of worth kind of narrowing it down to some of the more important behavioral interventions. And so I thought I'd do this clip on some of my favorite interventions and some of the interventions that I have seen my colleagues take an interest in. So I've broken the top 10 behavioral interventions into 4 categories. One looking at sort of goal setting, action planning type of activities. The second looking at relaxation or meditation kinds of activities. Thirdly, looking at exposure activities or activities that are around helping a person face the things that they're afraid of, that are overwhelming them. And then the fourth category being dealing with sort of black and white thinking. A lot of our clients tend to look at the world in sort of a black and white kind of way, and so they get bundled up in their strategy on how to cope with life because they tend to look at things in either or types of ways. So firstly, looking at goal or action planning, I think that my first one would be just basic problem solving. The ability to identify a problem, break it down into its simple aspects, and come up with an action plan. We talked earlier on about goal setting, and you can look at goal setting and problem solving as kind of the flip of the same thing. Once you identify a problem, then you can set a goal. Because clients are overwhelmed by the issues that are happening in their life, it's often very important to be able to break it down. Randy Pattison in Changeways uses the term bits and bytes, breaking it down into bits and bytes so that they can be tackled and the client is more likely to be assured of success as they do that. So first one is problem solving. Second one is increasing activity level. Many clients get caught up in just staying at home, retreating, withdrawing from the world. So the ability to increase their activity level. Podesky has a methodology where you use a chart and have people graph their mood or chart their mood in conjunction with their activity level, and hoping that they'll make the self-discovery that their activity level is related to their mood. That particular activity is difficult to do with many depressed clients, so you have to really work at the kind of the motivational side of it, doing a lot of the work in the session and minimizing the amount of work on the client between sessions. But anything that you can do to help a client set a more realistic goal so they're going to be certain of success and start re-engaging in life. Sometimes this means going back to old hobbies or old things that they used to do in the past that they enjoyed, or it may mean taking up something new for them. The third, I think, behavioral intervention is around increasing the quality of a client's social network. Many of our clients have very constrained social networks, very few friends, and sometimes often their only support systems are professional support systems. Their disabilities are such that they haven't been able to maintain their informal support systems, or their informal support systems have withdrawn from them. So we want to do a number of things in terms of the social network of clients. One is we want to just increase the number of people that are in that social network. It's helpful to have diversity so that an individual's social network isn't just based on connection with one or two people, or even people that are all in kind of the same group. But the more groups that you can be a part of, the better. And then, of course, addressing the quality of the social network and overcoming interpersonal issues, either by sitting down with the person, negotiating a better way of relating, or maybe it's about accepting the person as they are, or maybe it's about ending the relationship. So being able to intervene on the level of the social network, I think, is very helpful, and certainly brings that social work knowledge base into play. The second set of behavioral interventions are around relaxation activities, things that help clients tone down the level of anxiety that they have over situations. Now, these interventions typically aren't curative, but they certainly can help a client cope with the difficulties in their life. So we have relaxations such as diaphragmatic breathing. And so just breathing exercises that seem to be tied to our body physiology, such that when we engage in them, it helps lower the tension level in our body. So there's a number of them out there. If people do yoga, they've probably learned all sorts of things through yoga. I've always used a thing that they call 4-point breathing. One of the things they all have in common is they focus on breathing with your diaphragm instead of breathing with your chest. In 4-point breathing, we first take in a breath with our chest, and then we add more air by taking in a breath with our diaphragm, and then we let it out, and then 4 is a pause. So 1, breathe with the chest, 2 with the diaphragm, 3, let it out, 4, pause. And doing this for about 5 minutes, 3 times a day, can help a person with their overall stress level. There's also other relaxation exercises that are more around sort of like progressive relaxation or visualization. So exercises where people will take 20 minutes or so, maybe lie on a bed or sit quietly in a chair, scan their body for points of muscle tension, possibly tense those muscles, relax them. So there's a number of them out there, lots of little audio clips that people can use to walk them through some of these relaxation exercises. The third one, of course, is meditation. Meditation has kind of hit the helping professions in a big way, lots of good research behind it. The problem I've always had with meditation is that sometimes clients are so anxious that the formal meditation is too frustrating for them to engage in. So sometimes you need to kind of roll back to some of the more basic relaxation exercises. But given the research and the evidence that's out there to the benefit of meditation, sometimes it's worth clients sort of breaking through the barriers to learn how to meditate. There's some evidence that suggests that the uptake in terms of meditation has some things to do with whether the clinician is a trained meditator themselves. And so it may be of value to you to pursue meditation if you want to be able to work effectively with your clients around that. The third area of behavioral intervention are what I see as kind of the exposure exercises. Clients ultimately have to face the situations that are frightening to them. And so helping them be able to do the things that they're afraid to do, it can be a really big help and is certainly an important strategy. So Podesky's fear ladder, or any way that you can set up an exposure hierarchy, starting with things that are easier for the client to do, where they're going to have success, and then working their way up to more difficult tasks. But with the success behind them, they're more likely to have success as they move ahead. This can be very difficult for clients, takes a lot of support from the clinician, but I think is a very useful strategy to have in your bag of tricks. Similar to that is the strategy that Judith Beck calls acting as if. This is where you act as if you don't have a particular problem and you behave in a way contrary to your inclination. And this allows a client to discover that this new behavior may in fact be effective. And the hope here is that the feelings will then follow from the behavior. Sometimes you hear clinicians talking about fake it till you make it. Same kind of idea is that you change your behavior first, and then your thoughts and feelings will follow afterwards. Really useful exercise to do with people with social anxiety. They're terrified of social situations, but having them go into a social situation and act as if they aren't as shy as they see themselves. And this very often rapidly leads to success and great encouragement to the client. The fourth area of behavioral intervention is dealing with black and white thinking. Clients very easily get caught up in this sort of yes, no, black, white, one way or the other way, and they have difficulty seeing the shades of gray. My professor back when I was doing graduate studies had a saying that you always have three options to every situation. And it's kind of a nice sort of rule of thumb because it forces you to think about, okay, what would that third option be? I do another video clip on the responsibility pie. And so that's a really nice intervention, particularly around clients that have a tendency to blame other people or possibly even overblame themselves. So that one's worth getting to know. The other one that I've always liked is the cognitive continuum. When clients tend to see things in black and white, drawing out a line and putting the extremes at either end and then breaking it down into pieces along the way. So for example, if you think about how clean should your house be, when you set it up to clean up your apartment or your home, what kind of standard do you have in terms of how clean it should be? So a perfectionist will say like it has to be perfectly clean or it's just a complete mess. So how do we break this down? Well, what we do is we try and define a point of what is good enough. Now the perfectionists will tend to say good enough is absolute perfection. But we can use that continuum to identify sort of points along the way that are not perfection, but they're good enough. And so breaking this down could be quite helpful to clients. So those are my top 10 behavioral interventions. I hope that's useful to you. You may pick some other ones, but in the action planning category, looking at problem solving, being able to increase activity level, improving a client's social connections. In the category of relaxation and meditation, looking at diaphragmatic breathing, relax exercises, and then looking at meditation. In the category of exposure therapy, being able to put together an exposure hierarchy, and the acting as if is a really useful intervention. And then in dealing with black and white thinking, I like the responsibility pie and the acting as if. So I think those give some starting points that you can work on. Even 10 is a lot, so pick one or two of those in terms of your skill development. And I think that you'll find that to be a good benefit to your clients.